Hi, so we're going to take a quick look at this acrylic paint set by Colore. So what you have is 12 different colors, and we're just going to give them a quick look-see. They're 12 milliliter bottles, so they're small, but that's okay for starting and students, beginners, whatnot. So what you want to look at is the consistency and the color density. So these are not too watery. This is not the best paper, but it's wiping out on the color, sorry, but there we go. So you've got to puncture the top of each thing before you start, and then you have your paint. Okay, so I'm just going to give them a quick look. So I have been a student and artist for 25 years since school. I majored in fine art in college, so I have a lot of experience with paints. I work with acrylics, I work with oils, I work with dry mediums. I've recently been testing a lot of different paint sets. So you don't want them to be too thick, you don't want them to be too watery. This is definitely a beginner set. You can get some texture with your paintbrush. I'm dry brushing, so it's going to make it look different. You can get some texture with your paintbrush, but it's very thin. The paints are thin. You're going to need, to get good color saturation, you're going to need a few coats, and that can be fine. That's not a negative necessarily. It just depends on personal preference. But me personally, depending on what medium I am painting on, that's a nice red color actually. That's an excellent deep crimson red color. I like that color. But depending on what medium I'm painting on, it's going to make the difference in how thick I want my colors to be. Because they're thin, they're going to dry quickly, so you're not going to be able to do on paper blending well, and that could matter to some people. Oh, I'm noticing that the video on my screen is not showing the same color necessarily as what I'm seeing in the paper here. This looks in my screen a little orangish, but it's actually a very, very deep, dark red. So I don't know if that'll translate over when I upload this. But yeah, the paints are a little thin, so they're going to need multiple layers of color. And that's, again, not a bad thing. Well, this is a more traditional orangey red. It's just a nice color. You can do a lot of things with any acrylic, just depending on what you want from them. So some people prefer to try out the different sets and say, if I want to do a wash, then using a really good colored acrylic that is thinner can work well for a wash. These are interesting. That's an interesting green. So the colors are nice. They've got some good pigmentation. I would use these normally. I will use these. They are not going to be my favorite set, but they're good. I think I'll probably use these when I am working with the kids, teaching them their art lessons, because you'll need to learn to assess the capabilities of what you're working with to get what you vision out onto paper or canvas. So that green was a little bit thicker than the other colors, so that's interesting. Let's try out some blue. I like that green. That's a very dark camo-ish color of green. Greens and blues are kind of my thing. So we're going to try out a cobalt blue. And that's a good standard colored cobalt blue. There's some good color saturation to that. It's not too thin. So the consistency of these paints is interesting. But this video is already almost 6 minutes. So I'm not going to finish out with the rest of the colors. They're a decent set. If you are interested in them, these be good for a student. They'd be good for a child. They'd be good for a beginner. So, yeah. That is what I think and what have you. Okay, thanks. Bye.